Hello and welcome to the Blessings in the Streets podcast. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts. And in studio today, I have a dear friend that I have known from way, way back. I mean, we literally know each other from elementary school, used to sit next to each other pretty much in many of our classes because of our last names being the same at that particular time. This is a woman of God, a special young lady who I haven't had a chance to see in a very long time, but she's always been near and dear to my heart. And she's taken out time out of her schedule to be with us today to share a little bit about her journey. So without any further delay, let me introduce to you Miss Adrienne Parson. Adrienne, how are you doing? It's so good to have you on the show.
I am doing well. I am so honored to be on the show. It is such a blessing to be able to connect with other spirits that are out to encourage one another so we can just make it through everyday things.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I don't take it lightly that you are here, and I don't think it's by accident that you're purpose to be here today, and we're just gonna just have a good time and just sharing some part of your journey and in hopes of inspiring and encouraging someone. So, but before we jump into that, I do want to give you a couple of moments to just share with the audience a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what you do, that kind of thing. So, if you would go ahead and share a little bit about yourself.
Certainly. My name is Adrienne Roberts Parson, and I am from Chicago, Illinois. I am a retired veteran and a retired nurse. I enjoy public speaking, and I definitely enjoy uplifting others.
That's nice, nice. Absolutely, absolutely. So, and how long were you a nurse? How long did you
I
do
was
that?
a nurse for 5 years before I had to medically retire.
Okay, okay. And you were in the service. What branch of service were you in?
I was in the Army. I
Okay.
did 6 years in the Army.
All right. All right. Awesome. Awesome. And thank you, of course, for your service.
Thank
All
you.
right. All right. So when we start talking about our journeys in life, the ups and downs and everything in between, of course, you can't really tell the full story, if you will, without taking a moment to just kind of reflect on the beginnings. And so that's what I would like to do at this time. And in doing so, I want to ask you if you would just kind of tell us a little bit about what was it like for you growing up. In the home, in the neighborhood. Just kind of let our audience know what was that experience like, any fond memories that you have about growing up, and of course, if there's any specific challenges that you had to face growing up that you'd like to share that you were able to work through and overcome. Please do so at this time as well. So I'll turn that over to you.
I grew up on the south side of Chicago in a middle class family at a time where Black Americans were fighting for equal rights, fighting for equal jobs, positioning, and the ability to feed and raise healthy families. I was the last of four children, but my brothers and sisters were all teenagers by the time I came along. So I pretty much spent a lot of time by myself with my mother, but it was also, which was a lovely time. She introduced me to who God was, and I will forever be grateful to her for that. That was a very positive step in the right direction and one that I've never strayed from. One of the unfortunate things at that time was that alcoholism, depression, and drug abuse were on the rise in the 70s, and my family was one that got trapped in that dimension. Um, by the time I came along, my parents were on a breakdown and our family was dissipating. But I learned too early in life what domestic violence was, how damaging it was, and how hurtful it was. Um, some great memories that I had as a child were being able to sing. I had a very praying and loving grandmother who would have shows at different times during the year, fashion shows. She made all of our clothes, which was absolutely fantastic. But anywhere that I would go, whether she was having a club meeting, whether I was at church, whether we were at a family backyard barbecue, she always gave me the ability and the encouragement to use my voice for a positive thing. which I have also kept up over all these years. Um, Even though she passed away as an adult, when I became an adult, it was very helpful. All the lessons going way back when to learn how to see things as they were, to be quiet, and that speak only when spoken to kind of attitude. And I kind of took the shy part of that role. I love going to school and meeting new friends. I didn't know that I was smart until I got around other people my age and began to see their genuineness and creativity. And it made me feel included in a different way that violence keeps you on the outside.
Awesome, awesome. That sounds like you said, a wonderful childhood, and I'm glad that you made mention about your singing, your love for singing, because I still remember even after all these years, anytime we had some type of school presentation or something of that nature that involved singing, you were oftentimes the one who had an opportunity to be that lead voice. And I could still, even right now, thinking back all of these years, hearing your voice. And so you've always had a beautiful voice, singing voice. And so I'm glad to hear that that was something that you continue to embrace even into adulthood and beyond, because that is definitely a gift from God to share, and I'm glad that you
Absolutely.
have chosen to use it in that capacity. So yes, for anybody who's listening to the show, she's not joking one bit. In fact, she probably is being a little modest as to her singing voice, because it was definitely something beautiful to hear. So I still remember that after all these years. So all right, well, I want to build a little bit more on your upbringing. Again, not so much specifically from childhood per se, but as we travel along in our journey of life, you live long enough, there's going to come a point where you might reach a situation or a circumstance, experience something that it just hits a little bit different. When this situation comes about in our lives, it's something that you might even feel like you don't know how you're going to make it through, because it's just the weight of it all, the burden of it all is just that heavy. And so, with that said, I would like, if you would, to please share with us a time in your life when you faced such a situation where you were thinking to yourself, I've gotten through a lot of stuff before, but I'm not sure how I'm even going to be able to overcome this, how I'm going to get through this. Clearly, you're here today to be able to share that story. So obviously, you were able to make it through. But if you would, please share with us, what that moment was like for you. Kind of walk us through that.
Um, from the breakdown of the family, I had a strong desire to want to be loved by my father, want to understand what love was and the genuineness that it created. But it wasn't necessarily successful, so it thrust me into an unhealthy search of love on the outside in different times and circumstances. And the meat and potatoes is that it thrust me into parenthood before I was actually ready, and it created a tremendous breakdown in communication between my mother and I, between other family members, because they began to allude to the fact that young parenthood will render me a failure.
Mm,
I internalized that so deeply that I wouldn't share myself with other people. I was afraid to acknowledge those things that I didn't know, um, afraid to be open, became very critical and judgmental, and still struggled with the understanding of myself and how this journey in early parenthood was going to affect me, because I was in the middle of graduating from high school and going to college. Nobody at school, none of my teachers knew that I was pregnant. And my mother didn't know I was pregnant until I was about 5 months. She happened to be going to the bath. No, I was in the bathroom getting ready for school, and she just couldn't understand why I was being so sluggish, why I couldn't get it together, why I was so hungry in the morning. But I happened to be in the bathroom one day thinking I was going to put on the outfit to hide the pregnancy, and she turned around and busted me dead on.
Mm.
And was disappointed because I didn't share it with her. But I think at this stage, looking back, she probably felt like it was a failure somewhere in her that, and something that she was trying to shield me from or protect me from that she wasn't able to. I reached out to so many people that I thought would be helpful, friends, good friends, best friends, neighborhood friends, school friends. And to my surprise, I was shunned.
Mm.
People would tell their children not to interact with me, not to play with me, not to surround themselves with me like I had a plague. So I began the journey very alone, very hurt. I even reached out to my son's father, which is now deceased, to his family to see if I could garner some help or at least some support. But that didn't happen either because, unbeknownst to me, his parents were also deeply involved in a brutal domestic violence lifestyle. Um, so, in that case, I felt extremely alone. I didn't think that I had what it took. My belief system started to shake. And it kind of knocked me off, not from wanting to go to college, but doing those things that would put me in a position to be accepted. When I attended Hyde Park High School, and at that time, we had a PEP program, which was the Pilot Enrichment Program, and it was for accelerated students, much like honors or Regents program. And I thought that through that, and increasing my knowledge and education and affiliations with people of higher learning, that it might afford me the opportunity to launch forward. But like I said, my failure in wanting to face it because of the recent birth of my son was kind of defeating. And I remember one time we were having a parent teacher session at the University of Chicago, and a lot of mothers were, asking each other, "Where's your child going to school at, and what's going to happen?" And my mother was so disgusted that her response was, "I don't know, but she's getting out of my house."
Oh.
Which I took internally and didn't understand at all what she meant. But we ended up being able to enroll me in Morris Brown College in Atlanta, Georgia. I couldn't attend school right after graduation because I was pregnant and Aaron was born that August. I felt, so deeply in a box that I really didn't know what to do or which direction my life was going to turn. But somewhere, God spoke to me and He said, if you just reach out and you tell people the truth about what is really going on and how you feel, I'll be there with you and I'll be there for you.
Wow.
I, in turn, sat down and wrote a letter to the president and vice president and the registrar's office to explain to them what my situation was. And you could imagine the pins and needles of being denied a scholarship or being turned away from something that I richly desired. And within, a couple of months of me sending the letter, they sent a reply back guaranteeing me that they would wait on me to deal with the things that I had to, and they would accept me in the spring session of the following year. So I was really grateful that God helped me navigate that. At the same token, it felt, kind of defeating because everybody around me kept saying, "You'll never get a chance to do that. You're never going to leave Chicago. You're just going to grow up on welfare mentality." But I pressed on. I was able to get with my son's father, and we happened to go on a trip to his grandparents' house in Columbus, Mississippi. He said, I kind of just want to take you down here. I'm the first child in the family to have a child, which was a male child. So I would imagine that was really elating for him. But when I got there, the grandmother kept saying she knew that I wanted to go to school. His father was willing to stay in Mississippi while I was at school, which was a tremendous blessing. But she offered to keep my son for me so I could go to school and so I could be somebody. I promised her that no matter what happened, that whether I graduated in 4 years or not, that I would come back and get him, that I would be the mother that he deserved. Now, mind you, I was 18 years old making this
Mm-hmm.
pact with a much older adult. And I just took the road from there. I got a lot of criticism, from his side of the family. Mom and dad are too old. How dare you? They don't know what they're doing and the reason why we went this route is because when I asked his parents to keep Aaron so I could go to school, the mother says, I don't think that's going to happen. That's not going to be a good idea. And I can't do it unless I ask my husband. So, in that, frame of mind, I said, well, she just said no. I'm just, I have to think of something else. I know nothing else,
Mm-hmm.
but I have to think of something else. And that was, my avenue to being able to have someone look after him on a constant basis and, try to attend college so that I could better myself and be a better parent for him. And it worked out. It worked out good. A lot of the times, I got criticized for being a parent so early, ostracized for, I guess in those terms, you say, being fast or getting caught up. And even in college, um, I had, the same experience that I did in high school with people being standoffish, don't be around her, anything degradative that people could say to me. But at that point, I guess I had built a little toughness in my skin, and
Mm-hmm.
I could take it. But I would bring Aaron to class with me a lot. And I was afraid at first, but after a while, things kind of took off in the right direction because none of my teachers ever made me feel bad. They never put me down, and they encouraged me a lot of times, to bring him to class with me, because one thing that they noticed was that he was so quiet. He didn't make any noise. And he was so mannerable that you didn't even know he was even in the same classroom with all of us. So I felt a lot of love from being able to live in my truth, and I guess at that point, educate us both, at the same
Mm-hmm.
time. Um, it was, an extreme challenge that I never imagined that I could get through. I couldn't see myself on the other side. I was young, I had a child already. I was a full time college student. Excuse me. I had to find a job and work. And most of the time, going to work meant I was missing a class. And I didn't get any slack, some of the times for, so what, that's your fault. You brought it on yourself, but you're going to fail this class, because you're not here. One thing that I did remember through all of it was that God promised that He would be with me, that He promised that He would never leave me, and that whatever I had to go through, that He would direct my path. My failure in understanding that was thinking that I could solve all my problems by myself, which we all know does never works, especially when you're undereducated. But I was able to navigate it. I successfully graduated from college. I got Aaron back in my full custody, and that was kind of a joke too, because the grandparents had grown so close to him, they didn't want to let him go,
Mm.
which I understood. But at the end, I remember being on the yard graduation day. Aaron was about 4 at that particular time, and I let him hold my degree. I was so excited. I had finally made it, past the milestone of, you're not going to be anything. And he said, "Hey, mommy, look what we did."
Wow. Wow.
And it was just, so inspiring, even in thinking back, because in high school I was pregnant. I still had to do a lot of tests, and like a fluke. You know how you say, well, if I have an extra person, maybe I have an extra brain. So
Mm-hmm.
some of the times I'll say, I have no idea what the answer is because I hadn't studied, I hadn't prepared. So I say, "Hey, Aaron, what's the answer?" My hand would gravitate, so I would put an asterisk by some
Mm.
of those questions, and those were actually the questions that I got right. So
Wow.
I, took that as an extreme blessing. Someone that God showed me at that particular time that He would always be in my corner. He gave me something to live for and something to strive for.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
in that regard, when anybody tells you what you can't be and what you won't do, it gave me more fuel to do it,
Mm-hmm.
to prove them wrong, to overcome a barrier that they probably were placing on me that I didn't deserve, but learning how to live outside the box. And I think for a while I've lived outside the box.
Mm. Mm-mm-mm. Wow, that is a powerful story, and I want to first, of course, thank you for your transparency in sharing that. I know that going back to difficult times like this, it's not always it's not always an easy task to share such a story and relive that, if you will, even if it's just for a few moments. But your story is the epitome of what I refer to as blessings in the streets, what that's all about, because here you had a situation where you're pregnant, you're going to be a young mother, and that the people who should have been there for you, people that you call family, people that you call friends, were the very people who distanced themselves from you. But then on the flip side, and this is where that blessings in the streets come in, God pivoted you in such a way where He put people in your life who had no obligation, no specific uh, directive to owe you anything, but
Right,
they heard you, they felt your pain, they understood your situation, and instead of ridiculing you and criticizing you and talking down to you as a result of it, they said, well, hey, let me help you out. And that's just the beauty of when you have a relationship with God. You understand this a little bit better, as I know you do, because only God could allow you to get a delayed admission under your circumstances, to even put it on your heart to write a letter to people in charge
right,
at a school, and for them to say, hey, we'll hold this spot for you. And then I'm trying to imagine you going to class with your son, and teachers being okay with it, not only being okay with it, but how just God put a calm over your son. Any other kid under normal circumstances would be antsy, crying, doing everything else that could be proven disruptive in a class.
right,
And here he was, quiet as can be, peaceful, not being a disturbance, so you could be fully focused on your studies. Even when you shared about your father's, your son's father's grandparents, um, watching your son. I mean, that was a blessing. But then at the same time, there's another part of it, and I don't know if you ever felt that way. I was listening as I'm listening to you tell that. I'm thinking, you said that they didn't really want to give him back because they were, they grown attached to him, and I was thinking of it a little bit deeper. Like, was it just that they were getting attached to him, or did they actually believe that you were going to pull this off?
they didn't
you
believe I
know,
was going to pull it
you
off.
know, and so now you done pulled it off, and now we're like, oh, well, you mean we got to let him go? Because you actually held your end of the bargain with this pact, like you said that you made at 18 years old. So God will position people, like I said, that you don't know, and then some people that you might know that again might quietly behind the scenes be rooting against you. You utilize them for the purposes that you needed them to be utilized for, which in this case, I needed somebody to watch my son.
Right,
Okay, we'll make sure that he's in a safe environment where he can be watched. They're not necessarily rooting for you, but I'm gonna use them anyway. And so when you get the victory, you're gonna go ahead and get your son, and then you're gonna move on. And they're
right,
not gonna like it, but it's gonna be okay because I said it was okay. Because I know that you are listening to what I said to you, which you said in the beginning was God told you that He would always be there for you, that He wasn't gonna leave you, that you can trust in him, that you can, you can rest in him and knowing that everything is going to be all right. And that takes a big leap of faith on your part at such a young age to be able to do that amidst all of the turmoil, all of the challenges, all of the naysayers. It speaks volumes to who you are as an individual, as a mother, as a woman who just refused to let all of that get the best of you to the point to where even though it would have been very easy to give up, to throw your hands up in the air and just to fall into the place that everybody wanted to put you in, which was this whole stereotype of the welfare mother who was never going to be nothing and never get anywhere and never do anything with their lives. You defied all of those odds, and again, we give all credit to God for that because
Thanks be
that's
to
not
God.
that's not luck. That's not just by
Absolutely.
I didn't just trip into that. It didn't just happen upon me. That's God moving, and that was you resting in that and believing and leaning into it. And again, I applaud you for that. And it's just all you can say to that is to wrap that up is just God is good all the
All the
time,
time.
all the time. He's all the time good, and He's on
All
time
the time.
good.
Yes,
You
he is.
know,
All the time.
so that is powerful. And again, that's the whole spirit of what Blessings in the Streets is all about, and the whole spirit of what we're trying to share here on this show. So I thank you for that story. That was very insightful, very empowering, very encouraging. Somebody's going to be blessed from hearing what you said because there's a many a young girl or even young man who, yeah, this wasn't the plan to become a parent at a young age, and they
Right.
may be ready to give up, but you are a pure example of why they shouldn't. Why it doesn't
Absolutely.
have to be
Never
the
give
end of
up.
the story. No, it doesn't mean it has to be the end of the story. My mother had me at 19 years old. She could have given up. That could have been the end of her story, and I'm thankful that she didn't. You know,
Right.
so it happens. And that's the thing about when people just one more thing with that is people have to really be careful about turning their noses up and looking down on folks or what have you when they go through something because the reality is we're all one unexpected life altering situation away from being in the same position as the person that we call ourselves looking down upon, and we're going to want somebody to show us some compassion, show us some empathy. So you got to be real careful before you be so quick to be judgmental on somebody, even if it was
That's
a
true.
mistake that they should have not. Maybe they should have done something different. Maybe it was a better way. We're not arguing that, but we all make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. My situation may not be yours may not be mine, but that doesn't mean that I'm not immune from making bad decisions or having some circumstances come upon me that I didn't that wasn't a part of the plan, but it happened. That's what helps makes our journey so special because it's a combination of the good and even the challenging. That's what helps to develop us and grow us and shape and mold us into being the people that we're designed that God has designed us to be. It allows you to be in positions like this and in other platforms that God is going to open up for you to be able to share and to pour into somebody else that you needed to go through what you go through that you've gone through in order to be able to bless and help somebody else. Sometimes it's just
Absolutely.
that. It could be just that. That could be the only reason why you went through it, just to be of a blessing to somebody else down the road, years later, that you don't even know, that you've never met, but something you said, something about your story is going to help them. So that's how we have to look at that. So
So
again, I
right.
thank you for that. I thank you for that. So when you think about adversities, whether it's what you just shared with me or just adversity in general, um, what is sort of your process that you like to go through that just sort of helps you get through challenging and difficult times? What do you like to do to kind of keep your head on right and not get stuck in a rut, or if you will, but to be able to push through and persevere through those difficult and challenging times? If you would just share a little bit about what you like to do that helps you.
Well, one thing that I like to do is remember my beginnings.
Hmm.
Remind myself that life is tough, just cut and dry. There is no roadmap. There are really no instructions on what to do when adversity shows up or when you find yourself in a tight situation. But what I do, and I have continued to do, is be honest with myself. I look at the situation for honestly what it is and what I think is saying to me before I can even, go through or, get out my bag of tricks, so to speak,
Hmm.
to analyze how it makes me feel and try to determine what the said outcome is supposed to be. And then I began to pray. I separate, myself from all outside things. I don't share with other people because in the beginning, because I know this is something that's personally happening to me, or something that I happen to be going through. I can tell you sometimes from time to time, fear tries to creep up in the form of saying, "Oh wow, here we go again," or like, "What are you going to do?" So, in those particular situations, I have developed what we call a prayer closet.
Mhm.
And in my prayer closet, I began to put on church music, even all the way back to Albertina Walker age, because I grew up in that era of music being so young in the family. Um, and it kind of starts the journey into what my spirit is feeling, how it's really impacting me, um, how, what am I really going to do? What happens if I don't do anything? And I, began to actually talk to God, not necessarily pray to Him, but talk to Him
Mhm.
to let Him know that here we go again. I'm faced with adversity. I don't know what to do. I don't even know how to feel or respond immediately. But I could just continue in the process to just seek His face, be closer to Him. Asked Him to direct my thoughts, direct my feet, and remember first and foremost not to put any irons in the fire, because having too many to start too many things at one time with no conclusion or solution opens you up to more fear, um, more persecution, I guess, in some ways, and trying to not let the intensity of the situation totally take me over. And I keep at this until I can actually hear God's voice speaking to me. Not just, opening up doors or directing people in my path, but actually speaking to me so I know go left or go right, stop at the corner and turn left, on Third Street, kind of like a real map would
Mhm.
be. Um, I can, just continue with when he says, make a move. I make a move. I've learned to be a risk taker in that regard. That if I don't move, then he doesn't know where to direct me to because I'm too afraid to move. I've learned over time that in the Bible where God says, "Follow me," that He means exactly that. Don't come up with an idea. Don't fall down and, try to pitch a tent here. That He means exactly what He says, just follow me. And that over time, it has, taught me that following Him means that He's already provided a shelter. He's already provided a solution. And if I want to see it, I have to move forward. Um, Reminding myself that He did not design me with a spirit of fear,
Mhm.
so I have no right to be afraid. Reminding me that anytime that you are going in the right direction in life, anytime that you hear God speaking and you move, that is just what it is. Anytime that you have a thought that is against what you already know and believe in your heart, that's the devil. That's Satan. Because anytime you are moving closer to your goal or to God's direction, he gets a little busier. He gets
Mhm.
a lot more feisty, and he puts more negativity in your path, than you could ever imagine. You don't know that it's a pothole or even know to put a blanket over the top, so you won't fall into the loophole.
Mhm.
But, it's just 100%, just continue to remind me that he is my strength, that if he's gotten me through things before, that nothing is too big for him, even though the situation might be vastly different. It might be more gargantuous. than you've ever planned or seen before. But move at the same pace. Don't get ahead of yourself. Don't and don't dismay. I have the right to cry. I have the right to be angry. I have the right to be, kind of thrown off my rocker a little bit, but just remember that even if I get knocked down, remember to crawl. Never stop moving. Never stop glowing, and absolutely never stop praying because He does answer prayer. And knowing, like I said, that He's already predestined and ordained our lives. I just, want to get to that. If He's already figured out what my life is supposed to be, let me get on whatever track that it is.
Mm-hmm.
Let the wheels keep going because He already has this figured out. So just, trust and obey. And
Absolutely.
at that point, then I feel confident about, reaching out to other people because when I talk about the adversity, it's not look at what's happening to me. It's look what the road that I'm traveling,
Mm, mm. I
which has
love it.
been most beneficial because,
I.
like you said, my story isn't yours and yours isn't mine.
Mm-hmm.
But it's valuable to stay on, the straight and narrow, so to speak. Most people think the straight and narrow, means that you won't have challenges or, life is just so easy. But in the long run, it's actually harder because, you have to stop yourself, from wanting things so much for yourself as opposed to the things that you need for yourself. Without God, we would be nothing, but with Him, all things are possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Love that. I love that. Because you're speaking to, like you said, not you're basically speaking to not making it about you, but making it about the journey. Appreciating the journey for its smooth roads, but also for its bumpy roads, because that's just a part of the journey. And I love the fact that you pointed out that while prayer is important, and I won't argue that at all. There is definitely power in prayer, but just sometimes it's not just about the prayer. Sometimes you just need to have a conversation. I mean,
Correct.
this is your father. Talk to your daddy. How would you talk to
Right.
your daddy? Your daddy wants to talk to you. How would you talk to him? Would you pray to him? Or would you talk to him? You would tell him how you
Right.
feel, and be okay with expressing how you feel, like you said earlier. And I think that's so important too. It's okay to still be sad or to be angry or to be frustrated about a particular situation. What you just don't want to do is you just don't want to get stuck in that, but it's still
Correct.
okay for you to have that human side of you to express those emotions. If anything, it's good that you get it out versus bottling it up inside, because that's not going to be of good to you in any way. Get it out, express how you feel, and then, like you said, follow follow him. And when you're talking about following God is not just about faith, trusting the process. It's also about being obedient and just
Correct.
doing, because as you stated, he's already got this thing laid out. Just because we don't know what it is, or just because we don't understand the directions, the navigations that he's taking us on, that doesn't matter. What matters is who's in charge, who's controlling it. And as last
Correct.
time I checked, he's undefeated in
Right.
terms of any plan, any term, any type of goal that's been set, mission that has been put together. I don't know of a time where he lost.
Correct.
So
Correct.
we need to rest in that, and just get, and again, and I speak for myself as well. Just got to get better and better each and every day, and just trust in that. It doesn't have to make sense to us for it not to be the right thing to do, as long as we know it's God that's leading the front. We just need to follow him and just let him take us where that is that he's going to take us. Trust that if some difficult patches along the way that come about, okay, you're not in it by yourself, so you're going to be okay, even if it's a little rough along the way. Because as you stated, straight and narrow doesn't necessarily literally mean straight and narrow. But people oftentimes can mind trick themselves into thinking that that's how it's supposed to be. God never told us that the road would always be easy. That it was going to be always
Right.
smooth. So he never promised us that. you know, he but he
Right.
but he did tell us that as long as we stick with him, we gonna be all right. We gonna make
Yeah,
it through.
they
So
say too, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans.
exactly, exactly. And many times I'm sure I've given him a great chuckle about what I thought I was doing and how I had it all laid out and it was supposed to go
Right.
exactly this way. Okay, You okay, keep on entertaining yourself with that. Now this is the real plan. you know.
Right.
So yeah, you're absolutely right about that. So Adrian, if you had a chance to speak to the younger Adrian, the Adrian that's 18 years old, she's pregnant coming out of high school, people all around her that she thought she could count on were just kind of, giving her the opposite vibe, the opposite energy, just not really being there. Um, she's not sure what she's going to do, how she's going to make it. If you had a chance to talk to her or anybody that might be listening, that could very well be in that same situation right now, where they feel like they're so alone and nobody is, just wanting to be there for them. Instead, they just want to criticize and judge. What would be your words of encouragement and wisdom that you would have to offer to the younger version of you or somebody like you to let them know that that there is a way to navigate through such challenging times, and to basically to equip them to be ready for moments just like that even in the darkest of times and the loneliest of times that they can still make it through. What would you say to them? What would you say to that younger you?
One thing I would say to a younger version of myself is that I'm blessed, I'm powerful, and I am enough.
Mm-hmm.
Some other things that I would say are believe in yourself. You've got this. There is nothing that can stand in your way but you. Another thing that I would say to myself is learn to love yourself,
Mm.
learn to get to know yourself, and that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to fall apart. It's okay not to know. Um, Another thing that I would say to myself is learn how to sing in the rain.
Hmm.
Um, know that the love in this world that you give off will return back to you. Something else that I would say to a younger person in my same situation, or even, a situation where they might feel there is no way out, is peace be still.
Mm.
God loves you more than anything. He took the time out of his busy schedule to make you in his own image, to make you powerful, and that everything that you need to survive in this world, he sent you here with. There is nothing on the outside that you need to survive. There is nothing on the outside that can bring you greater joy than knowing that God made you special, just like you are. Celebrate your difference. Celebrate not being, not being like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Celebrate, those times where you do have the opportunity to sit by yourself and know that in situations where you feel most alone, where you feel the most rejected, that God has a special place for you and He's sitting you on the shelf, molding you into the perfect clay. Don't jump out ahead and don't get anxious because when it's
Mm.
your time to shine, when it's your time to glow, He'll come and get you, put your feet on a solid rock, and let you go forward in grace and in glow. You are
Mm.
enough.
Love that. Love that. That's definitely some words of wisdom, some nuggets that I think anybody listening, young or old, can grab hold to and apply to their lives. So, thank you for sharing that. Wow, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. So before we finish out our show today, I do want to take an opportunity to, of course, celebrate you, to acknowledge anything that you might have going on in the works right now. So if you would just share with us anything that we can love on you on and celebrate with you about that you might have, exciting news, adventures, anything that we can celebrate for you right now that you got going on, please share that.
Well, one thing I would like to say is I feel extremely blessed. Looking back over my life, the first 50 years have seemed extremely challenging, the whoopsie daisy, whoopsie daisy time. But now that I've passed that milestone, I don't feel old, but I feel like now I have the opportunity to live a life that's more rich and that's more full. I've been able to return the love to myself that I've put out in the world. And I am 100% proud that through the journey that I've been on and I continue to be on, that with myself and my sons, that we have broken the generational curse of
Mm,
abuse. I have not really necessarily shared everything that happened in my childhood with my children. And we've had some extremely rocky situations because they have two different parents. But I was able to persevere in a way that I remained open. I remained as an extreme source of information. Um, the fear, so they wouldn't go through the fear of not knowing the rich history in my heart that they have come from. They are both successful adults. My oldest son, Aaron, that went to college with me, is now a father himself.
mm,
He has him and his wife have been married for 8 years now, and I have two grandchildren. To watch love flourish between two young people is just awe inspiring and amazing. And I say that to say this. Aaron wanted to go to college, and I told him, wherever you want to go, just, pick a college that graduates African American men at a high enough rate. So he was getting pursued, from every college in the country. And I was like, this is going to be a decision, that's going to take years to, come up with an answer. But he
mm,
said, Mommy, I want to tell you something. I said, go right ahead. He said, Mommy, I went behind your back. I don't want you to be mad. So I'm saying, this child, has been God's grace. There's nothing he could do, to make me angry. But he said,
mm,
Mommy, I decided to take the entrance exam for Brown University. And I said, well, what happened? He said, Mommy, they told me that I had to score a 900 in order to be admitted to the college. And I was like, okay, no big deal because he's a good test taker. I said,
mm,
well, what happened? He said, Mommy, I got a 990 the first time out of the gate.
mm.
He did attend Brown, and he graduated from Brown. But it was this young lady at graduation. She kept following me around. Every time I turned around, she was there, and I kept saying, "This chick is who is this?" Because he asked me if it mattered, if he dated somebody that was African American, and I said no because I had gone to the college visits with him. I was like, it is so many women from 54 countries. Just get to know yourself, be yourself, and everything will be okay. You say those things, but maybe I kind of forgot that in the long run. So, like I said, this young lady kept following me around, and I kept saying, "What in the world is, what in the world is going on?" And she would, ask me different questions about his father, and I said, "Oh, this is a stranger. She is getting way, way personal." And it had to dawn on me. I said, oh my God, this young lady is in love with my son. So it
Mm.
took me on a totally different path. And I was like, this is a good thing. One thing I can, honestly say was that bad relationship after bad relationship after bad relationship, and I began to tell him, I've had so many bad relationships that I can teach you how to have a good one. And it wasn't that the relationship was bad, it was that the understanding of being unequally yoked.
Mm.
I listened to God, and the other person wanted to listen to whoever they were listening to. And then, the frustration came when I wasn't listening to them. And it's like, I don't trust you to lead because God didn't tell me that. So I don't know why you didn't hear what he told you. But but and they are now living in Hawaii. My youngest son, Hassan, he is going to be 27 this year. But I came back to Chicago after I left the military, and DeVry University has always been a noteworthy university here in Illinois. And they decided to petition CPS for a high school, and CPS granted them that particular charter. Hassan was able to graduate from high school at 16 years old with
Mm.
a high school diploma and an AA degree.
Wow.
Look at God at work. So
Go
now
ahead.
he is very independent. His head is on straight, and he actually now currently lives in California. He's not, ready to be a parent, which I totally understand because I told him this is a journey for the rest of your life.
Yep.
But
Yep.
I am at least proud that they learned to what control was, what self love was, and what radiating positive love and energy meant because they're getting it back. So, like, I'm just so thankful that the curse has been broken. I'm thankful that they've developed wings and understand what flight is. I've carried them so long, but I told them I'm carrying you so you learn how to have wings, and they're taking off like a linear jet. So, I
Wow.
can't be more proud, more thankful, more blessed than I am right now.
Absolutely. That is wonderful. And again, this, ladies and gentlemen, this is the again another representation of what blessings in the streets is all about. Because see, you weren't supposed to make it, and your sons definitely weren't supposed to make it. They were supposed to be
Absolutely.
a part of the statistics, dropouts, deadbeat dads, no education. They're supposed to do all of that, possibly in jail, possibly not even making it to adulthood because they got caught up
Correct.
in the streets. But no, we have college graduates, intelligent men doing big things in life with the future, big and bold in front of them. Um, and I'm certain, without, I mean, it probably goes without saying, as a mother, just the joy that you have in your heart and how proud you are of knowing what you went through and the sacrifices that you had to make, and the nights that you stayed up wondering, how am I going to pull this through? How am I going to pull this off? And but
Right.
again, but then God was there all along. He never left. He's been there. He was there for you then, and all the way up and through adulthood, for your children, and now you got young men out here, making you proud, and doing, again, doing wonderful things with their lives, and that's just awesome news to hear. And so yes, we definitely celebrate that here. We love on you for that, for being the mother that you were, and pouring into them. And again, that's why I say you just never know why you go through what you go through.
That's
you
correct.
know you had to go through what you went through in order to prepare them. That I'm sure you would have preferred a different route. You would have loved a
Actually,
much more smoother path. But
right, right.
but in retrospect, when you understand, and that's the beauty about when you have that relationship with God and you understand the significance and the value of journeys, even the rough stuff. You go from wishing that it never happened to saying, I'm glad that it did,
Yes,
because it
absolutely.
so now you don't look at it as sort of that taboo thing that I wish that was never, if I could turn back the clock, this would have never. No, it actually needed to play out exactly
That's
like it
right.
played out, because it was a part of God's perfect plan for both you as well as for your sons. And again, the sky's the limit for all three of you, really. I mean, you've done your part in raising them, but you still have work to do. That's why you're still here.
Correct.
That's why you're still around, in your right mind, able to be on platforms like this, and I'm sure others that will come your way, to just share, to just pour into, to just be that living example, that living testimony of what God's grace and mercies and presence in your life looks like. So that's a wonderful, wonderful way to end our show, to celebrate on that. I mean, that we couldn't have done it any better than that. So that's beautiful stuff. That's beautiful, and I'm so glad to hear that, about you as well as your son. So that's great. That's great. Well, Adrian, it has been more than a pleasure to have you on the podcast today. It's been so long since I've had a chance to hear your voice and chat with you. And of course, we've never had a chance to talk at this level. But I
Right.
guess we have a whole bunch of life experiences behind us now that we can, have a little bit more deeper conversations than what we had in elementary school. But,
That's true.
but nevertheless, I can definitely say it was worth the wait. And we definitely want to make sure, that we do continue to keep in touch with one another. And just a pleasure having you on the show. A pleasure in you sharing your story. Again, somebody is going to be blessed from what you said. I know I've been blessed from what you said. So I know somebody's going to be listening. They're going to be encouraged. They're going to be uplifted through your message. And I appreciate your transparency in sharing that. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. And for those who are listening to our show today, if you like what you've heard, Please subscribe, please share, please comment, please like, because this is what we're all about here at the Blessings in the Streets podcast. We want to create an experience that is unique, that connects you to God and just helps you to understand that that there's something to look forward to, even in the midst of the pain and the struggles. That the
That's
storm
right.
doesn't have to take you out. It's just something that you have to go through. We all have to go through, But if you just remember, you don't have to do it alone. And the best one to have by your side when there's nobody else around is God Himself, because He will shield you, He will guide you, He will navigate you. And when you come out on the other side of that storm, you'll be stronger, you'll be better, you'll be wiser as a result of it. So here at the Blessings in the Street podcast, always remember that your story is your glory, your relationships are relevant, and your journey is your joy. I am your host, Joseph B. Robertson. Until next time, God bless, take care of yourself, and keep tuning in for some more empowering and encouraging stories. Have a good day.